Welcome to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, 5-time Voice Arts Awards nominee, David Brower.
Thanks, Allan. This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast. Our special guest today from the Bay Area. She's a speaker, author, media source. She helps businesses and individuals find more success and a lot less drama through better communication and social skills. Rosalinda, welcome to the show. Glad you're here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Oh my gosh, I've been reading through your stuff, and I'm going, oh man, when back in the day when sexual harassment really started ramping up, and the Me Too movements, ramping up, and all these, it's like people have to walk around in the business place with eggshells sometimes. Is that right?
Yes, more and more. There are people who, I've met a couple who says, I'm not changing my ways, and that's fine. Eventually it'll probably end up sitting in HR,
Right.
but it depends on the workplace culture, especially, and what people are used to, accustomed to. Is it more male-dominated? Is there a lot of co-ed? Ages have something to do with it then. They're more forgiving, or they are more alert, where they've been raised with, watching what they say and being sensitive to everything and everybody. But then that affects communication. If you have, it lessens the ability to state an opinion, and that's where having communication skills, professionalism, some principles that you live by, courtesy, tact, maybe even a little humility come in, and that's what I really focus on, just living by certain principles. And I don't mean, old-fashioned, like, do unto others or whatever, but just having a couple basic guidelines or pillars or whatever you want to call them that are your go-to to guide your behavior and your words. I've had people who go, I just have to speak my mind.
Right.
And my answer, I've had that in a couple of sessions that I've done. And I said, no, you don't. It's a choice. That's an excuse to say, I'm just the kind of person that just speaks their mind. Well, change it.
Yeah.
Hold your tongue, bite your tongue, or whatever is necessary. But in generations, there's expectations.
Right.
And to address that, I tell the older people especially, they already look old in the eyes of a 27, 34-year-old. You're old.
Yeah, even if they're 40. Yeah.
Yes. It's like, wait, when are you retiring? One big thing is do not talk to them, tell them, like you would a child at that age. Say you have a 30-year-old or a 27-year-old child. Do not speak to them in the same way you would, because that then in their eyes they will see you as mom and pop, and that you might be not invited to lunches or things because they now see you. Don't fix their hair or anything. And then for the younger people, try and avoid my mom has a dress just like that. Or my dad likes, doesn't know how to use his iPhone either. So there's just little things that we can, do to not bring about or focus on the difference of generation. Being here on the West Coast and in the Bay Area specifically, right next to Silicon Valley, most companies pride themselves in how casual it can be, where in my opinion, and several other managers now that they're seeing this, the trend that has been practiced is the personal life is blending with the professional life. There is no private, personal. You bring your, home problems to work, and in fact, it's an excuse to not get your work done. Like, I'm just not feeling it today. I didn't sleep, or all those things that we would refrain from.
Right.
Bringing to work, because that would show that we can't handle our job. But now they provide nap rooms and mindful places and yoga and for you to feel. And so really, I think the workplace, the companies have afforded people to be less professional, less concerned about getting their work done, being on time. They're very forgiving. Oh, sure, stay at home today, no big deal. And I might get in trouble for saying this, but I just think it's a whole generation who came from daycare to kind of grown-up daycare, because
I agree.
They're allowed to do almost anything. They provide laundry for you. They pool tables. I mean, all this is, and I believe there is some benefit to that, to releasing, some energy or something. But it's gotten to the point where it's almost encouraged. And I just don't know when you get any work done, because I'd be downstairs playing ping pong all day long. I posed this question to a group that I was addressing, just the workplace in general, is if you were to hire a plumber and he came to your home, and during that time you're paying them by the hour, they decided to stop and do some stretching exercises and do their smoothie, and then get back to work, and then, take kind of like a little break, make a phone call to their kid, FaceTime their dog for a minute, and then come back to work. Would you put up with it and pay him through that time? Or her?
Oh, hell no.
Hello. Sometimes,
I might think about it if he has a long enough T-shirt to cover up his butt crack, but it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be for very long.
Oh my God.
You're right. I can't even. I'm flashing back to a Saturday Night Live skit that just kind of freaked me out there for a second. Sorry about that. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, if you bring somebody. Even if you bring somebody into your home, you bring somebody into your business, and you hire them to do a job, well, that's what you hire them for, and you want to pay them a fair wage for that job, and you expect great work in return. Well, why wouldn't you do the same thing with your employees?
Because the workplace culture, as we started this conversation, has allowed for it, has nurtured it, has afforded it to people. So it's companies who are doing that, and apparently, especially in the tech industry, money just flying out the door, that's okay. And, they figured employees are fluid as well. Hey, drop your ideas here. You want to go somewhere else, move on. We got what we needed from you. So there's that I've heard from tech people as well. It's a very fluid industry, specifically that one. But I think they're going to have a hard time if they leave the big Googles and Yahoos and go into a certain industry. I think they're going to have an awakening.
Well, it's going to be culture shock for them. It's like coming out of a real high class, high end prep school and joining the Marine Corps. It just ain't going to happen. You know what I mean? No. It's just going to be, and I can't imagine really, and maybe I'm wrong, but I can't imagine really how they can go on like this forever. I mean, there must be some sense that they're having, success, and maybe it's just what you said. It's the fluid part of it. People are going to come and go, and we'll get new ideas from the next group. So there's no loyalty incentive, obviously. No, that is no longer the case. Exactly. From all of my research that I do and HR contacts. It really isn't. 2-3 years, sometimes 8 months, and they move on. Better opportunities, better benefits, whatever they're looking. And the younger people as well are looking for companies who do good in the world. Also, they have to feel good about it. And I'm not diminishing that. That's great, but that's part of what they're looking for. And it really has turned into where the applicant interviews the company. Like, wait, do I want to work for you? What do you have to offer me? Yeah. And that's, sort of an underlying attitude also, which has changed. Usually you wanted to impress the company. Now they have to impress you. Yeah. It boggles my mind. And I guess I'm glad I'm naive to a point and running my own business instead of working for some corporate company any longer, because that would just be mercy. Let's talk about your book, Don't Burp in the Boardroom. I love it. I love it. I love it. So tell me, I don't even have to open it up. I'm just putting the cover on my wall, and that's all I need. So let's talk about that. What was the impetus for that, and tell us how it flows? Well, to be very honest, it was for business purposes. You say you're in business, you should have a book, and that's what prompted it. Right. And I found a publisher. Thank goodness, it was a very easy process. I thank them so much, but. And I had a lot to say. Basically, that's why it's in the book. I just had a lot to say. And I wanted to come across in a more humorous and practical and realistic way. Mm-hmm. So I don't, while I, mention, I want to use the word fancy because that's what people equate, having manners or etiquette. Knowledge of etiquette, but I broke it down into more day-to-day dilemmas. A lot of what's in my book I experienced, and a lot of what people or I observed or people have shared with me, and of course I changed some things around. But it's a humorous approach, and I offer options. I
don't like telling people what to do. Even though, I'm considered an expert in my field, but we are all different. Situations are different. People are different. Cultures are different. I mean, your personality is different, where your principles are different. So in the book, I offer options for a lot of scenarios. You can do this, even options where people go, I got to speak my mind. Okay, if that's where you want to go, but this, and this can happen. Now, how will you handle that?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I use a lot of humor and even a little slang, for a book like this. But I just think that's more realistic. We live in a society that is more casual throughout the country, but even more so here in California.
Absolutely. I'm thinking about break rooms. I mean, do these places even have break rooms for lunch anymore? I mean, where, people... Back in the day, we used to, you go into the break room, you sit down, you have some lunch, you talk about whatever you want to talk about. And I'm assuming that everybody just kind of brings their laundry to work and shares it at whatever level they want to.
Oh, my goodness. No, from what I hear from people in corporate, and especially these bigger companies, it's catered every day. They have chefs who cook things to order. Healthy options, and then just comfort food. Oh, no, they don't have to buy. And some of them offer just either breakfast every day, fruit platters and healthy options, and lunch, and they have a full-fledged cafeteria there that is available to their staff. And then others have, plentiful snacks available for free for their employees. So that's become a trend where you offer employees everything. One tech guy said, wow, that's great. Yeah, we have laundry here on site. They even have our daycare and all kinds of other things that I can't think of at the moment. But
right.
And I said, well, wow, that's great. And he goes, no, what they're doing is they're providing all this so that they can keep you here longer hours. You don't have to go home when they provide all this for you. So that was a different perspective.
Wow, that really is.
Yeah, it made me think, well, okay, I guess it is a benefit to the company. It's worth it to them because you stay longer, like, oh, I got to go, I'm hungry. No, here's some free food.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we got to finish this project. We got your back. Your kids are okay. Your laundry's okay. Oh, you need your car washed? Not a problem. It'll be ready when you get off in 2 extra hours.
Yeah. So that's, a different strategy.
That is a different strategy. Oh, my goodness. Well, I like that you offer a lot of options because, like you've said in your bio in different places, that there's not one size that fits all the rules. And, I mean, you can have 5 different people in one room with 5 different things going on. And, how do you navigate that kind of information? I just don't know how you do it. Unless, like you say, you study your book, you work with you, and you figure out, okay, this is etiquette. No, it's not having your pinky up while you put the salad fork on the left-hand side. This is how you communicate, how you share or don't share things that are going on in your life.
Definitely. And if I could just pinpoint one thing that I believe would solve or diminish definitely a lot of misunderstandings and problems and confusion and so forth in communication is tact. That is the one word that I live with the most. It's just plastered in my brain everywhere before I open my mouth and before I hit post, on any social media. And tact, obviously the way, how people define it is, it's how you say it, just being not discreet, but saying it tactfully without intention or malice to hurt or offend anyone. Yeah. But I also add a sidebar of the definition is also knowing when to zip it. You don't always have to address, comment, give your opinion, or post or like or dislike. You don't have to. Just leave it alone and walk away.
I mean, you see so much, especially obviously with social media stuff now that there's so much, there's so much crap out there that just has no business being in front of anybody's face. And you got young kids on Snapchat looking at whatever they're looking at. You got adults on Facebook liking, posting, hating, trashing. I mean, there's, right? I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, do you know how to spell tact? I mean, it's like, my gosh, I couldn't agree with you more. That's just, I mean, let's, put on a tact class and I'll be your bodyguard. I mean, that's just silly.
That would be great.
Well, and the other thing I think, you and I are on the same page on a couple of things, obviously, in my brain, and that is you obviously you have to have tact, but you also have to have integrity. You have to have respect. You have to, check your ego at the door. And I mean, just simple stuff that a lot of people just aren't aware of or selectively have forgotten about.
I believe there is an element of being unaware, that people were not taught this, and it sounds so old-fashioned to go, well, it's in the home where people learn, how to communicate.
Oh, right, yeah.
It is, if you just logically take away the old school adage, where do children and teens spend most of their time? At home.
Right.
So therefore it just makes sense that that's where they would gain a lot of information for life and life skills. But if that's not happening in the home, then where? In the school? I mean, they're busy teaching what they're supposed to teach, not necessarily teaching them, the principles, or like you said, respect and dignity. The kids are supposed to come prepared with all of that for the teacher, and that's my opinion, to allow the teachers to do their job. But so there is an element of that, and then there's an element, I think, of encouraging people to be who they are and to be happy, and you have to always feel good about everything. And I don't know who told them that, but that's not real life. I mean, I wish it was, but
it's so disingenuous. And I don't remember what generation it was, but parents felt like they had to raise their kids and be their friend and hold their hand and, well, let's go have a hot chocolate and they don't know the meaning of tact or discipline. And then these kids grow up. I mean, we only know what we know, right? As we're growing up. But boy, that just sets them up for failure in so many ways.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, it is a disservice. As parents, we're trying to do that. And I don't want to bash this newer generation or anything, but I believe when people go, oh, these millennials. Well, can you really blame them completely?
No.
Were they taught or taught that this was an important thing when you get out in the world? So, they're just going about their business. And if companies are encouraging, hey, we have no titles, hey, we're all cool, we're all the same, then they're just living in that world of everything's cool, everything's wonderful, and we're always supposed to be happy and never struggle.
Yeah, and what have you done for me lately is okay.
Mm-hmm. And I'm offended if it's something you said. I don't know how to handle that, so I have to go tell someone or cry or be upset or post some, poem about it or whatever.
Right.
So, and I don't blame them even. They that's the only way they know how to handle criticism or point out that they were wrong or they could have done a better job. They don't know how to handle anything like that.
Absolutely
so there's that sensitivity that people have to be, be careful how you say it, and that is such a waste of time. I have to put fairy dust all over the whatever I'm going to say, and well, I don't have time for that, but oh well.
I know. Well, your skill set is needed like in every business around the planet. I mean, we're about out of time here, but I so admire what you do, respect what you do, value what you do, because it just hits the right points. And I don't care if you call it old school, new school, no school. It's just, it's tact, it's integrity, it's courtesy, it's polite. I mean, let's keep it simple,
I agree.
So your book is available everywhere, I assume, all the usual places, Amazon.
All the usual.
Yeah. So if people want to get a hold of Rosalinda Randall, how do they do that? Go to your website, rosalindarandall.com?
That's the easiest.
Yeah.
That's the easiest. Everything's there, social media, book, blogs, everything. Yes.
And it's Rosa, R-O-S-A, Linda, like it sounds, and Randall, like it sounds. I can't even say it now. Rosalinda Randall. Hey, it's been a real treat. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, David, for the opportunity.
You bet.
Listen to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower on the go. Downloads are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any podcast app, and on our website at davidbrowervo.com/your20-minute podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.